So, what if I told you there's a financial skill out there that's way more powerful than any stock tip or get rich quick scheme you'll ever see? It's a genuine superpower for building wealth over the long haul, and honestly, it's something anyone can develop. Let's unpack what that is. But, okay, before we get to the solution, we gotta talk about the problem. Have you ever felt like the world is, I don't know, actively working against your financial plans? Like you're just constantly fighting this uphill battle? Well, if you feel that way, you are not imagining it. There's a really good reason for that feeling. You see, the problem isn't necessarily you. It's the environment we live in. We are surrounded by what you could call the instant gratification trap, a world that has been perfectly engineered to reward short-term thinking. I mean, just think about it for a second. Everything around us is celebrating the now. You've got same-day delivery, viral trends that literally last 24 hours, that little dopamine hit you get from a social media like. Our entire culture is built on a foundation of speed, novelty, and getting exactly what we want right when we want. And what's really fascinating about all this is that it actually rewires our brains. When we're constantly bombarded with messages screaming faster and sooner, short-term thinking stops being a choice. It just becomes our automatic, our default setting. It's a natural response. It is not a personal flaw. So the key here is to make a conscious choice to break away from that default setting. And this brings us to a huge fork in the road. A choice between two completely different mindsets that will ultimately lead to two very, very different financial destinies. And here's what that choice actually looks like in practice. Over on the left, you've got the short-term mindset. This is driven by impulse, by emotion. It's the whole buy now, worry about it later approach. But on the right, you see the long-term mindset. And this isn't about being harsh or restrictive. It's about patient planning, building disciplined systems, and just relying on the quiet power of consistent habits. This really gets to the core of where each mindset puts its energy. The short-term thinker is always chasing something, the next hot stock, the quick win, and they're reacting emotionally to every little market dip, which means they often abandon a perfectly good plan before it even has a chance to work. The long-term thinker, though, they're building. They stay consistent, they ignore the daily noise, and most importantly, they give their efforts time to compound. And as you can imagine, the results couldn't be more different. Short-term thinking, it just creates this frustrating cycle of starting over again and again, and it's fueled by unrealistic expectations and constant anxiety. But long-term thinking, well, that leads to stable, predictable progress. It brings a real sense of clarity to your goals, and over time, it strengthens your discipline, which makes the whole process feel less like a struggle and more like a journey. Okay, so how do we actually do this, right? How do we shift from that default short-term setting to a long-term focus? Well, it all starts with a simple but really profound mental framework. Learning to think in decades, not just in days. And let's be super clear about something. Long-term thinking does not mean you can't enjoy your life today. It's not about extreme frugality or denying yourself everything. It's simply about creating a balance, thinking about how your decisions today are going to echo into your future. Here's a really simple tool to help you do just that. Let's call it the future-proof test. Before you make any big financial decision, just run it through these 4 time horizons. Ask yourself, okay, how does this impact me today? What about in 5 years, 10 years, and what about 20 years from now? You can apply this test to pretty much anything. That daily expensive coffee habit, a major purchase like a car, your investment strategy, or even the financial goals you set for yourself. This simple act of just projecting forward forces you out of that instant gratification trap. It's that simple. And all of this brings us to the very core of your long-term advantage. We need to completely redefine a word that, let's be honest, most people see as passive or even weak, and that word is patience. So let's look at this new definition. Patience isn't just sitting around and waiting. No, it's an active, strategic skill. It's the discipline to maintain consistency, to just stick with the plan, so that the absolute magic of compounding has enough time to work its wonders. And in a world that is obsessed with speed and instant results, developing this skill, this strategic patience, well, that becomes your ultimate edge. It is an advantage that short-term thinkers, just by their very nature, can never ever compete with. So let this one sink in for a minute. Patience is not weakness. It is a formidable strength. It is truly one of the most powerful and accessible financial skills that any one of us can choose to develop, and you can start right now.
Which brings us to the final, and maybe the most important question of all. See, this isn't just about understanding an idea, it's about putting it into action. So my question to you is, what is one decision, big or small, that you will make today using that long-term filter? Because your financial superpower is unlocked one patient, future-focused decision at a time.